Yeah. I think we should start every show with a little dance. So Leidy and I are gonna dance. You're welcome to sway, gentlemen, if you. Yeah. All right, this is my 4th live video show, live horizontal video show. I'm co-hosting again with Leidy Dahiana, Erotic Queen, because she's just such a fucking dynamo and she has so much to share. And I'm really excited to talk to her about this topic because I don't have actually any experience with keeping the sex hot long term, but Leidy Dahiana has plenty. And perhaps Brian has a little bit of insight. We're all loving the masculine feminine ratio today.
Yeah,
this is feeling really nice.
This is nice.
It's really femme heavy lately, so it feels good to have some men's in the mix.
Can I just say, Brian, you're a good looking guy. You're killing it.
Woo! Man compliments. Yay!
I mean,
and
we're all pretty hot.
I'm straight, but you're killing it, bro.
Saying, like,
I love it, Bruce.
This is looking good to me.
Lila and Leidy
here.
Killing it as well.
Everybody's just killing it. I thought it was a platform with having it dust.
Let's hug.
Yes. Leidy, I don't know if you've ever met Brian. He's one half of the duo, The Discerning Dick.
I heard
they talked to the Discerning
the big part.
Dick.
Yeah, good.
Dudes talking to dudes about sexuality. So I'm really excited to have Brian in the mix today.
I love it.
I wanted to open by borrowing a term from the lesbians. They have a term called lesbian bed death. You heard of this? Lesbian bed death.
No,
and the idea is that 2 lesbians get together in a relationship. It's so cozy, they stop having sex.
Ooh.
It's just like super domestic. And then the sex dries up. And so I wanted to borrow their term and just say that bed death happens all over the place.
Yeah.
Bed death happens in relationships and even long time, I think, lover relationships all over the place. So we're talking about bed death and we're talking about how we might counteract that today. And I wanted to pose a question, a multifaceted question. Have you ever been in a relationship where sexual attraction dried up? I have.
Oh,
yes.
That used to be all I did, exclusively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have.
Please raise your hand in the comments if you, Samia. Oh yeah, yeah. Have you been in a relationship where the sex not just dried up but got boring?
Yeah.
Like you still did it. It was like boring.
Yeah.
Sure.
And have you been in a relationship? Still did it. Liz says, "Yep, totally." Have you been in a relationship where you stopped having sex entirely, but you stayed in the relationship? I have. And I'm glad that nobody else has because it was not healthy for anybody, right? And it wasn't like this was going to be a short period of time and then, you know, maybe things would kick back up again. It was like, it was good and dead. Kalina said, and again, yup. Yeah. Sammy says, although some couples are sexless by choice and it works for them. So there are all kinds of possibilities of relationships that can work.
Is that
I'm talking about in which we need sex. Sammy is appreciating my bikini top. Thank you, darling. It's new. It made me feel fabulous, and I had to wear it for this particular show about keeping it sexy. Sammy says, no, you can have a romantic partnership without sex. I think that happens to a lot of couples. I think about the French model, where they're raising children. They've been together a really long time. They each have their mistresses or misters, and it's an open secret. And then their relationship is loving and romantic, but without sex.
Yeah. There's a lot of sexless marriages of all kinds. Even
for sure.
Yeah.
But we're currently talking about the ones where we want to keep it going. We want to keep it going. Lauren says, I've chosen to leave a relationship because of inequality of sex drives. My needs just weren't being met. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. And I wanted to just address some of the reasons why sex in a relationship might dry up. And then I welcome any other ones you've got. So pregnancy, grief, some kind of traumatic event happening, a deprioritizing of sex in order to prioritize something else, like going back to school or a new job or a project, a launch of something, menopause. I hear libido can shift at that time. Midlife crisis, anxiety and depression also, right, can really inhibit one's libido. Lack of communication in general, just like you're feeling disconnected and you don't want to fuck. Fear that your partner won't get your sexual self. Like you won't be heard, you won't be seen, you won't be gotten. In open relationships, having NRE, new relationship energy, with another person, right? So if you're getting super excited, it's like having a major infatuation, except you're actually involved in a relationship with this new person. And so the sex can dry up in your relationship that is ongoing. Maybe deriving your sexual energies from other means. For instance, when I was super into Argentine tango, I had less of a sex drive. Because it was really, I was getting a lot of my sensual and sexual energies going. Orion provides a counterpoint. He says that NRE makes him want to have more sex with all his partners. And Sammy says, me too. That's lovely. I think that is not always the case. I think that is sometimes the case. I think that is not always the case. The sense that you are growing and changing, but your partner is stuck. They're stagnant, but you're moving. And just the law of diminishing returns. Like the dessert, you know, like the first 3 bites are fucking amazing. And then, you know, by the time you get to the 20th bite, you're like, that's okay. My tongue's a little numb. You know? I can't really taste it anymore. Routine. Just getting into a rut and being like, this is how we have sex. First, I go down on her. Then she sucks my cock. Then we fuck. I come and it's over. Right? Something like this. Hyper-focus on orgasm instead of pleasure. Sensing that your partner isn't present, so you don't want to show up either. A sense of obligation or pressure, like, oh, I have to have sex, or we have to have it 3 to 5 times a week in order to be a healthy couple, or it has to be this way, or we both have to come, or it has to be this long, just any kind of constriction. And then propriety and commitment, I think, can also inhibit and hinder. What's libido? Do you have any other reasons sex might dry up, or reasons that the sex has dried up for you in the past? Feel free to grab this spot, anyone, if you're feeling like it. Adrienne, Lauren, Samia, anybody? Any other reasons you can think of to add to my list?
I think you gave plenty. I want to focus on let's have more sex, so I'll wait for that.
Yep, let's do it.
Why we're not having sex is like, all right.
Yep, okay. So it's just the floor. Okay. And then as we dive in, I wanted to bring up some of Esther Perel's ideas from the book Mating in Captivity, which I super recommend to anybody, whether they're in a relationship or not, whether they're monogamous, polyamorous. She brings up this dual desire that we have for both stability and excitement. And she proposes that it is not a problem to be solved. We're not going to like get it. Ooh, Adrienne says libido related, birth control pills when she was 18. Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to add that to my list. Thank you.
Yeah, and any hormonal, any like
Hormonal changes,
antidepressants,
right?
any kind of medication you're taking also. And scar tissue. If you have some scar tissue that's blocking your arousal somehow that you don't know, so scar
Scar
tissue.
tissue.
And actually there's something with the spine that there could be something in your spine that some chiropractors deal with that could be blocking your libido as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you did have something to say about it, even though you said you didn't.
I needed a moment to like digest it all. Your list is pretty amazing, though. So you have a lot of stuff there.
Loss of trust. That's a great one, Lauren. Yeah. Loss of trust. Some sort of betrayal or breach in trust. Brian goes to chiropractor immediately. So good.
Yeah.
So in Mating in Captivity, right, she talks about this dual desire for stability and excitement, and that it is a paradox that we can manage, that we essentially dance with it throughout time, throughout our lives and our relationships. She proposed, can we want what we already have? And that's what I'm hoping Leidy will help us flesh out today. How can we want what we already have? And the other thing I wanted to bring up from Esther Perel's book, Mating in Captivity, is this equation that she uses: desire plus obstacle equals excitement. Which is, perhaps why so many of us are turned on by unavailable people, right? That's a huge, huge obstacle. So I wanted to ask a personal question now before we go into the erotic blueprints, which we're getting there. We are getting there, Leidy.
Warm me up, baby. Warm me up slow.
Real slow.
Yep.
Slow motion. Okay.
Brian is like, what's happening?
Regular speed.
Yeah, I thought it was glitching out. It was just she was moving that slow. I thought it was a Bowie technology thing.
So I was hoping that everyone would be willing to answer this question in some form. You could do it in the chat. There's a spot open. You could grab it and then you could cam down when you're finished. But I was hoping that we could answer the question, what makes you feel sexy? What makes me feel sexy? I feel sexy when. And I made a little list, of course. I feel sexy when I'm in the middle of taking a yoga class, when I feel really hot and really strong. I feel sexy when I'm dressed up exactly the way that I want to be. I mean, can I just show you this bikini?
Oh, wow.
I feel sexy when I'm touching my breasts. I really like to touch my own breasts. When I'm masturbating after a shower, I just really like being on the towel wrapped up in my hair, just like feels so good. I like to get clean before I get dirty, is what I like to say. And when I'm dancing and running my hands over my skin, I feel really sexy. And when I arch my back, I just feel really good. So would anybody take a crack at that? I feel sexy when? Could be one thing. Leidy, come on.
I wanted to
You feel sexy.
The man, yeah. I feel sexy when I'm out of my head and I'm fully in my body. When there's not a story running around, that it's all sensation and it's all the moment, and the mind is kind of, taken out of that moment. I think that's when I'm at my most. And it might not look sexy, but that's when I'm really that embodiment of not thinking and being.
Yeah. Brian?
I feel sexy when the rest of my life, like let's say the outside of the bedroom life, feels really aligned and purpose driven. And the opposite feeling a bit like a jellyfish, like I'm just kind of like living life and not really on purpose. I feel like that's when I feel like least sexy.
Yeah.
Is that bound up with a sense of feeling masculine?
I think so.
Purposeful?
There's a piece of
I
that.
find that really sexy in a partner.
Yeah.
Valerie is sharing how hard it is to get out of her head, and I concur. To not have the outside camera, the self-awareness of like, how might I look right now?
The dialogue.
What's going on with my face? What's my face doing? Do I have a double chin?
Yeah.
Oh, Liz says amazing heels make her feel sexy. And Kalina says she feels sexy when she's lightly touching her body in public and she knows somebody is watching. Oh, that's a good one. I like it. Hey, Bruce, do you you can just fill in the second part of the sentence since I know you're in public.
Right now, but I'm hanging in there.
Does anybody want to pop into the comments and share? Christiane says, when she's in her rehearsal clothes, working hard, 110% independent, and no makeup, dance pants.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I've been feeling super sexy when I'm riding my scooter in Bali because I see a lot of women hanging onto the back of men on their scooters. And I'm just like getting myself around. I'm like, I got this. Vroom, vroom.
Are you wearing a helmet?
Ride that bike.
Yeah.
Yes. I have 2 helmets. I have one for a guest.
Nice.
Well, yeah. I'm feeling amazed that you recognize all these times that you feel sexy. I feel like I would have to do a whole dissertation to come up with a list your size.
Yeah.
I actually was hoping, Brian, that you would dive into that because I'm really curious about particularly people who have been socialized as men and what actually makes them feel sexy as opposed to what porn says. They're when they're supposed to feel it.
Yeah.
You know, like what actually makes you feel yourself? I'm really curious about with. So if any other folks who are socialized men wanna chime in on that. Lauren says, I felt sexy when I made my career power move last week, which she shared with us. Held strong to what I knew I deserved and didn't falter in what I was asking for. I feel super sexy when I wear sexy underwater, but I assume she means underwear, under my regular professional clothes. Yeah. But I think sexy underwater is really nice too, right? It's like,
you dress fucking Lala.
I feel sexy being really dressed up sometimes, that there is like a mystery, right? That the sexuality is all within and there's like a
veneer,
a covering of everything.
Cover up.
Yeah, and then it's like, I know, but you can't see, you don't know. It makes me feel very in like a power dynamic of, I know how sexy this beast is, but you can't see it.
You mean like wearing a parka?
Yeah, like I'm thinking for Burning Man, I would like to like just cover everything and be like, almost like a burqa would be something.
I actually feel really sexy when I'm walking around New York City in my snowsuits.
Yeah, I don't know something. I like your snowsuits actually.
It's like chin to ankles. It's fully covered. Adrienne says when she's wearing a lover's t-shirt. I actually kept someone's t-shirt for months, and then I was like, "Can you wear it again?" It's like it's lost. It's it's not like you anymore. Can you please put it on again and then give it back to me? Don't take it back. Give it back to me. Lauren says, and she feels sexy when she gets impact play and has a beautiful bruised bum for a week afterwards. And she's been self-conscious and a little embarrassed about admitting it. I think a lot of kinksters would agree. A lot of kinksters. Yeah. There's something about the battle scars or like the proof, the physical proof. I used to be like my tango calluses. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I earned these. I am so sexy. I earned these. You know?
Totally.
And Johnny, who's Sammy's partner, Sammy's husband, Johnny says he always feels sexy and he's not being funny. I'm very curious. I would love for Johnny to grab a spot and tell us about always feeling sexy. Now he's listing all the things that make him feel sexy, and literally every activity in the day. That's amazing. That sounds like
it's embodied pleasure.
Yeah, embodiment. Yeah. Valerie says, I feel sexy going into traditionally male-dominated spaces, or going somewhere unexpected solo and just owning the space, ordering a drink just how I like it in a fancy bar, wearing knee-high boots, a stiff corset. Just reading that gives me pleasure.
Stiff corset.
Oh, Liz says that she asked her male partner, and he said wearing a suit makes him feel quite sexy. I love men wearing suits.
I love suits myself.
Oh, it's just, yeah, delicious for me. Samia says that Johnny is going upstairs to touch himself in the shower. And Liz feels like anyone in a suit is super fucking sexy.
Yeah.
So thank you for your input. If you want to add any more I feel sexy whens, like stick those in the comments. I am so down to read those and feel into them. And now I want to hand it over to Leidy to talk to us about the 5 erotic blueprints. What are the erotic blueprints, Madam Leidy Dahiana?
Do you want to do them in context to how to keep it hot, or you just want me to go into the blueprints? Like, is there any avenue that you want to explore, or I can?
Since we're talking about keeping things sexy,
yeah.
So the knowledge of that and how we can keep things sexy for each of those blueprints, maybe something like that.
So the erotic
there's 2 empty spots. Cam up if anybody if you want to join.
I know we want some like So the erotic blueprints are created by my mentor Jaya Ma. So it's not my concept, giving her credit. And the amazing thing is it really celebrates people's individualities, which is, I think, something that as a relationship goes on, that we sometimes can morph into the other person or start hiding our needs. So it's a way to kind of celebrate your uniqueness, what turns you on, what kind of erotic being are you? You mentioned some kinky play and really honoring what feeds you. And I think understanding what feeds you, what turns you on, what do you feel connected to is essential to keeping things delicious and hot. So the beauty of the blueprints is that even though there's 5, they're all skeletons, right? You add your own uniqueness, your own juice, the meat, the muscles, the vein, it's all you. But it gives you a few umbrellas that you can kind of go and play with. So I'll briefly go over them. So it's a typing system for your arousal. And there's 5. And I'll try to see if I can embody all 5 to see if you guys can feel them.
Yes, please.
The first blueprint, and the order doesn't really matter. They're all beautiful and they're all as important. So I'm just going to say them in this order. The first one is energetic. And when I talk about energetic, I like to slow down and even enjoy the pause, right? We're talking, everything's happening. So maybe you guys can take a breath with me and just be in the energetic of slowing it down. Enough to feel the anticipation of what could be next. And you mentioned Esther Perel. She talks about mystery a lot. And with the energetic, it's really exploring the mystery. I don't want to know yet. Don't touch me yet. Don't tell me everything yet. Slow it down, So there could be eye gazing, a lot of tantra work, energetic feeling. There's light and dark energetic. Do you remember the movie American Beauty?
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites.
So that dark energetic guy with the bag, recording the bag. So that's, for some people, that's really hot. That kind of like creepy but passionate, all energy, all staring.
Elena.
I'm thinking of Kylo Ren.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know who that is.
From the new Star Wars.
Oh, well, that feeling.
Played by
Creepy,
Adam
dark,
Driver. Like
sexy.
dark,
Yeah.
broody.
Yeah, so there's so much juice in the spaces in between. Sometimes we're trying to get from here to there. And the energetic indulges in the anticipation, in the lightness of a touch or no touch at all. And just feeling, at the end of the day, we are energetic beings in physical bodies. So there's so much in the energetic that could be enjoyed. And it's a much slower pace. And there's a lot about connection and being present and really feeling and being, where time stops, and it could take you 20 minutes before you land that plane on that body, So did anybody
I guess I'm not energetic right now because I'm like, hurry up, speed it up, get to the other one.
Imagine. So I slow it down for a reason, because we are in a rush to get there. And the energetic is like, wait.
Wait.
This is my lover.
Love to you, Dino.
So each blueprint has superpowers and shadows. And the superpower of the energetic is its sensitivity. It can have multiple orgasms. It can feel things without being touched. And on the shadow side, it can get short-circuited, disconnected very quickly. Like, oh my God, that's it. You grabbed my boobs too fast, and I really needed that 20 minutes, So maybe, Lila, you would energetically short-circuit me when I'm like...
Not always. Just right now.
Right now. So right now you're in penetrative energy. Penetrate me now. So energetic. And then we have sensual. And as you're moving in your sequence bikini and Orion scarf, I could almost see a texture that I almost want to grab, right? I want to feel his scarf. So the visual, people that wear layers. So it's all about the senses, how things sound, how they, I don't know. If you were to taste this grape, what would it taste like for you in this moment? I'm just going to enjoy the grape and let Lila suffer as I take my time. So you mentioned before, I don't know who said it in the comments, about being in your head. So because the sensual is so into the senses, they're easily in their head. There's a sock on the floor. The dishes are not done. I didn't take a shower before being intimate. So
it's weird because I would think it would be easier to be in your body if you're sensually oriented.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's a little bit of you're taking it all in, so you're maybe over aware, and it could bring you pleasure to be aware of everything, but it can also bring you distraction. So the superpower, in a sense, is the weakness, or not the weakness, just the shadow that could show up. Yeah, so sensuals also need time. If you want to penetrate a sensual too fast, they may want to cuddle for 2 hours. They love making out. They may want to feed you. They may want to massage you. So they really want the journey, and they want the journey to be beautiful, to smell nice, to sound good. Playlists. I know I get distracted if the wrong song comes up. Not all the time. But some songs are not for the moment. So, and some people don't care. And actually I shift back and forth. So anything sensual that, so Lila, when I see you and you're so visually exquisite, I'm turned on by the senses with you, because there's so much going on and the details, and it's just beautiful.
Thanks, lady.
Then we have sexual, and that's the penetrative energy of, come on, let's just fuck. Let's just get naked and do it. And all the extras are a waste of time. They're a distraction. Sexuals can have really high libido. You know, they're DTF, and it's beautiful. They have that energy about them. And at the same time, it could become goal-oriented. Having a goal, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you always go into the goal, you may miss. It's like taking a plane versus taking a walk or the train. Let's take a plane there. That may be the fastest way, but may or may not necessarily be the most pleasurable way to get to a destination. Sexuals can be a little looking down on other people. Like, why do you all need so much? Why are you so complicated? Why are you too much? I'm simple. I get it done. I'm in and out. Sexuals. Penetrate me now. Orgasm now.
And also, I think there's a quality of readiness, right? It's like, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm good to go.
I'm good to go.
Let's go.
Yeah. And they
Giddy
need
up.
it. And they need it. So I always say a sensual needs to relax before they have sex, and a sexual needs to have sex before they can relax. And then we have the kinkies. Kinky's one of those kind of very, you know, especially now, a lot of people are exploring kink. It's not necessarily just BDSM. Kink is just about exploring edges. And edges, there's a spectrum of edges. What's edgy for me may not be edgy for you. So edges, there's psychological kink, fantasy play, power dynamics. I love power dynamics in my head. It's just like, what makes me sexy? Let's say power dynamics in my head, because I can switch them really fast. If you're in a scene, you have to wait for the person to switch. In my head, I can go from dom to submissive just in my head in like 2 seconds, and it works for me.
By the way, you just blew Christiane's mind with the sensual needs to feel relaxed before they have sex, and sexual needs to have sex before they can relax. You just like, I can see her head exploding, and she's not even on camera.
And I don't know, I'm going in a list, but you guys can ask questions or interact. I don't know how it works best, but
go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish the 5.
Yeah. And I have to say that this can go so deep. So I'm giving a brief and little description of it all. It's so delicious and so deep. So kinky's psychological and sensation based. So I may be more into the sensation of edges on kink, scratching, biting, constriction, rope, or I may be more into the fantasy or both, as long as it's an edge for me or for you. And the beauty is variety, right? Kink can go so much, and at the same time, lack of variety, because it could be very only in a scene, only when there's a million costumes, only when there's rope. So it could get a little into a groove where that you might lose variety because it's usually the same type of variety, if that makes sense. And
I love sensation play. So kinky sensation play is so good for me. Different kinds of sensations, changing it up. I like surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise really does it for me. So you did in a demonstration of the Erotic Blueprints the first time you had that talk at my event.
Yes.
You did probably some smooth and some energetic touch, and then you gave me a little slap, and I was like, whoa!
Yeah. I love being startled and then a pause where I don't know when you're gonna do something next. I could almost come in that space between
anticipation.
So that's mixing kinky and energetic. And then I just want to say a little shadow piece on kink. If there's any shame around your kink, whether it's not accepted by your lover, or you haven't talked about it, or you're not going to be fully embodied, then there's going to be a little bit of a block in your kink. So loving your kink is super important to really maximize the pleasure. And then there's shapeshifters, which I'm a shapeshifter. And we love to play in all the blueprints. It depends on our mood, what we're craving. We're like little variety whores. I'm calling myself a variety whore. Somebody doesn't like that term, that's okay. And the beauty is that they can adapt, but they might also be starving in a blueprint. So for example, I played a lot in the sexual blueprint and kinky with my lovers, and I could adapt to that. But rarely, until I met my husband now, did anyone really feed my energetic, the slowing down, the anticipation. So even though I was a shapeshifter and I was a happy sexual, happy kinky, my energetic was starving because no one, or I hadn't communicated how to express it, how to feed it. So usually shapeshifters, because they have so much capacity for pleasure, there might be an area where they haven't really explored. They've been adapting to 2 or 3. So I think that's a little bit on all of them. And then you guys can kind of, I don't know, pop questions and see where we can go, because it feels endless.
I feel like a starving shapeshifter.
Yeah, it's common. And I didn't even know I liked energetic until he played body map me. The whole concept of body mapping unlocked my energetic, where now I can have energetic orgasms, that seizuring that never happened before, that had to be unlocked emotionally, physically. Like I had to, it was crazy. It's crazy.
When you gave the talk and you described in the way that you just did, you know, the core ideas of the blueprints, and you said, does it sound like you? Raise your hand. I raised my hand for all of them because they all sound like me.
Yeah. Well, connecting it to how to keep sex hot, I think when we become one thing, and to your question of Esther Perel, when you think you know someone, it is the biggest disservice you can do to them, because we are constantly changing. Every single second, we are changing. And the sexiest thing you can do to someone is experience them in their change, not as something rigid, not as something that you know, because you limit someone when you say you are this, you like this. Now you eliminated the possibility for me to not like that in this moment.
I love that, because it's another thing that on that other list that you didn't like so much, but feeling put in a box by your partner can turn you off so tremendously, right? Yeah. What did you just say about the sexiest thing you can do is what? Honor your partner in their change? What is it?
Yeah, celebrate that they're changed. They are always changing. It's almost like the now already passed. So every second they change. And that's what happens when you think you own someone, you know someone, you know how they kiss, you know what they like. I don't want to know what you like. I want to continue to learn what you're going to like in the next moment. And that's going to add the mystery. And that's why the cake is not going to feel like the bite before it, because there might be a new ingredient there that you may have missed in your assumption, or trying to make it easy for your brain to understand who I am. I'm a complex being.
Yeah. So I'm going to start a keep it sexy list. And the first thing I'm going to put on it is releasing assumptions about your lover.
I think that's like, already if you're doing that, it's going to be easier to keep it hot.
Any questions about the erotic blueprints from the folks? Or do you want to share anything about yours?
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got some. So Brian said, kinky, energetic, rawr. And I said, tell us more. Yeah. And he said, slow, sexy, variety, yum.
Yeah.
Orion says he's a bit of a shapeshifter and likes adapting to the moment, which I can absolutely see. Also, he's so attuned to his partner's desires and seems to enjoy his partner's pleasure very much. So somebody like that can be very attuned to adapting in the moment, right?
And then
he says, I feel like
then you're in the moment, because when you embrace it as a new moment, then you can be in the moment. If you're living in the past concept of the person or the situation, now you're in the past. So to really be in the moment, it has to be new, really.
I have a question for Leidy.
Hi, Lauren.
So, hi. I was thinking while you were explaining all of this, is it possible for specific people to evoke a certain blueprint from you and to kind of have those different, I don't want to say like narratives or identities, but like I know that for me, different people bring out different things. Like I'm not going to be super snuggly and sensual with, one lover, and then, have my other lover be like straight up like put your cock in me right now, sexual energy. Is that a thing that's kind of like different recipes make for different blueprints?
Yeah, I would say there's two parts to that. The first part is, are you trying to adapt to what they're doing first? You're letting them lead, and then you are seeing how comfortable you are with what they're leading with? Or are you leading and you're just going according to your mood? So the awareness of who is this for?
Interesting, thought-provoking.
Yeah, what do you think? Are you, because when you say bringing out parts of you, is this that you're comfortable being that part of you, or that you're just craving that part of you?
So, I mean, my main thought in this is that there's, I have a lover that, I am extremely sensual and I desire like all the snuggles and the cuddles and like put my head on their chest. And then I have another lover that like beat me with a cane and like tell me all the dirty things of why I shouldn't have come here. And I don't have the same desire for the same person.
Yeah.
Right? So like they're not exactly interchangeable between the two people, but I do have those desires individually.
Of course. I have those desires with my one husband. I am both people, and I don't always want to be one or the other. So I think that's changed. That's what we were just saying. So just making sure that you're honoring what feeds you, or deciding whether you want to feed them, and knowing the difference, I think is the biggest key.
To me, this seems like, wow, I just lost my thought.
Let's celebrate that. You're in the moment.
Oh, well, what they call out in you, that is also a possibility, that they are just calling out something in you that, oh yes, relationships as alchemical equations, right? So they bring out something that is, alchemy is like turning straw into gold, right? It's like creating something that was not there before because of the meeting of certain energies or certain substances. And so I think of relationships like that we create a different substance based on the people that we join with. And so it could be true to the nature of that connection. And I think it's really important that you do what Leidy suggests, is just checking in to make sure that you're not bending yourself around their needs in a way that sacrifices your pleasure. It sounds like you're really just tapping into your sides and how they can best be received by your different lovers. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think that's very true. But
now I want to talk about, Leidy, what happens when you have a different blueprint from your lover?
Yeah. So willingness, when you are into someone, when you love someone, when you've decided to be in a relationship with someone, the willingness to give the other pleasure is key. And it doesn't matter what blueprints you are, right? I could be energetic, you can be shapeshifter. And as long as there's a willingness to learn the other person's blueprint, there's a million bridges to build. But the willingness is the key component. So, and you taught me a word that I didn't know, Laila, which is compersion, the joy of someone else's pleasure. So I almost think we can build bridges. I just need to know, are you willing to build a bridge here? Are you willing to enjoy my pleasure, to be enthusiastic about my pleasure? And then we can go back and forth. So there's many ways to do that. And body mapping is one way to deal with differences, where you have feeding sessions, because you cannot always do both at the same time.
I don't think they know, my love. Please explain to them what a feeding session is and what body mapping is.
What feeding? So I would almost switch it to nourishing sessions, right? You really want to learn what feeds each blueprint. So for the energetic, It could be even playing with a crystal over their body. It could be playing with sound and letting the sound vibrate and pleasure them. So it's giving the person their erotic nutrients in the way that they want it in that moment. So I like to grab. So I'm going to do that for my pleasure. That's not me feeding you. That's me doing something that makes me feel good. So having the willingness to learn what feeds your lover. And the beautiful thing about the blueprints is that it's a bridge to compassion, right? Let me understand who you are. Let me show you who I am. And then do we have the willingness to work on these bridges, you know? And the bridges could be super sexy, like a kinky and an energetic, for example. I can energetically give you a blowjob without actually touching your genitals. Just the energy, the movement around it, the intensity, the presence. So, and we can play with power dynamics of you telling me what to do or not to do. So the blueprints are, think of salads. You can make so many different salads with so many ingredients, but each ingredient still holds its individual flavor, and then it becomes a bigger flavor. So does that answer your question? There's many bridges.
I wanted to just call out a few of the things you said that I've now added to our Keep It Sexy list that I'm making for us.
Yeah.
So compersion.
Yes.
Joy for somebody else's pleasure, which you may be more or less attuned to that, or you may have a greater aptitude for that naturally, but it can be practiced.
Yeah.
There are ways to practice it.
Always.
Body mapping, which is something that you'll tell us about, I hope, right after this a little bit more. And feeding sessions, which she described as giving a person their erotic nutrients in the way they desire it at the moment. And a spin-off of that, or related to that, I wanted to talk about something that's very common in queer sex: your turn, my turn. I think it's really, I think that a lot of us have a misconception that we need to be both giving and receiving pleasure at the same time, and that if we're not, it's not quite it's not hot enough, it's not balanced, it's not like the sex. So the idea that we can say, all right, now I'm going to focus on you, I'm going to feed you, it's your turn, and I'm going to shower upon you the stuff that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And then it can be my turn. And I think that is one way to keep things very sexy for the people involved.
And there's levels as well. So it could be my turn, your turn, until we learn, right? It could be practice sessions. Let me just focus on you. And as we become more sophisticated, more comfortable, we can start blending them. So for example, with my lover, we can shift without it being a full session. So it doesn't have to be you're feeding me completely. Okay, you fed me for an hour, and now we can gracefully transition to me feeding you. So I think eventually they can blend, because some people may feel that my turn, your turn can feel unsexy. So I think there's different levels of eventually building really cool transitions and ways to make it all flow and kind of.
I'm not suggesting that it be abrupt.
Abrupt transitions are a thing. Like that's another.
Yes, but I'm not suggesting that it should be.
Just to reflect on that, what I heard from that was, in
Lauren, we can only see your lips. Can you adjust your screen?
Oh,
we can't see the rest of your face.
Now
still, we can't see your eyes. There we go. Hi.
I'm sorry. What I heard from that was that, in those moments of the feeding that you said, it's you're hearing me and you're giving me what I asked for, and I'm going to hold space to do the same for you now. And I think that that's not just feeding the sexual energies or the sexual desires, that's feeding the relationship bank. It's taking the deposit and then making a deposit in somebody else's bank. And that is very important to me in a relationship.
Beautifully said. And then you're motivated to give because you receive and you know that there was an enthusiasm there, and then it feels good. You're both in it, willing
Orion's talking about, he says, I think my turn, your turn is lovely, but same time is great too. Just consistent attention to the flow of energy in the room. And the thing that I know about Orion is that he is extremely attentive to the flow of energy. And most people that I encounter are not aware. So what suggestions do you have, Leidy, for somebody becoming more attentive and attuned to the flow of energy in a room?
Yeah, so breath.
Or between people.
Yeah, breath is important. Well, I would say even before breath, having a conversation about presence. You know, talking about it. How does it look for you, for me? You know, when do you feel that I'm present? When do I feel present? So the beautiful thing is when you're giving pleasure, breathing, taking pauses, and checking in, asking for feedback. Hey, A or B. And then when you notice the way a person breathes, react, did they get goosebumps? Did they twitch? Then you start to becoming very present. So I think slowing things down enough so you can notice them will be the way to become present. If things are happening too fast, you may miss a lot of little signs of I like this, I don't like this, if we're just moving from one thing to another.
What do you suggest for people who find that their mind wanders incessantly and they have a lot of trouble being present, a lot of trouble even paying attention to their breath?
Yeah, this
in
is
order to do all the other
today,
things.
right? This is a distracted society right now. So mindfulness practice is always good, just kind of checking in. There's a beautiful book called The Mind-Body Code, which is really amazing in just noticing. So spending more times being quiet, taking the attention from outward to inward. So I think just mindfulness practice is, and again, the willingness to slow down enough to become good at mindfulness, because it's like sitting to meditate day one and saying, oh, I'm not good at meditating. That's why you need to practice. So, yeah. Do you have any other ideas for mindfulness and just being present?
I think some circling practices can help with this. Like if you're gone, you can speak that you're gone, right? You can be like, I was just, when you're back, right? You have to be back in order to speak about being gone. But usually what happens is our mind ping pongs, right? So I'm here for a second in my body. I notice that you're licking my pussy, and then I'm gone thinking about something else, thinking about dinner, thinking about whatever else. But when you come back, what you could do is say, I noticed that I was just thinking about dinner and what we're going to eat, and you can share where you went so that your person can be more aligned with you. I think it's very vulnerable and scary to think about saying where we go when we're distracted, when we're in intimacy.
Yeah.
So
you don't
I
have
think
to
that's
talk about everything all the time, moment by moment when it's happening.
For sure, no.
Is step one. Just notice and then discuss it later. Notice, like witness, observe, feel.
Sure. And I feel like you're taking everything I say to the extreme. I'm not suggesting that we share moment to moment everything all the fucking time.
Yeah, Lila, I'm so sorry if you felt that. That was not my intention at all. And if it came out like that, that it's completely, I'm just like feeling. So I'm really sorry if you felt that throughout this interview. So I apologize if that came out wrong.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to point it out because I noticed it. But it felt like when I said something, you took it to the like as though I was saying it as an absolute, must be this way all the time. No, that's not what I'm saying. But you were saying what are some ideas I have about getting more mindful? And that's one, is doing authentic relating or circling practices where you can say, oh, I have a story about you. I realize that that this came up when we started to go faster. I have a story that you're impatient and that I'm taking too long, you know, like, so that is a more advanced way, and you might not want to share that stuff all the time, but it is a way to get more connected with your own experience and then be able to communicate it.
You know what I think is beautiful? What happened right now? It's like amazing. You're gonna have misunderstandings. You're gonna maybe say something that is taken the wrong way as you're trying to find pleasure and joy. And the most beautiful thing is to repair it, right? To say, hey, I came off this way. Teach me next time a different way, or may help me become more aware. And that communication can take sexiness to another level. So the ability to miscommunicate or go through a little bump and then say, hey, how can we make repairs? So I'm going to do this with you, Lila. Hey, I came off this way. How can we make repair here? What are some juicy ways that we can, you know, find our understanding again?
Yeah, I would love it. I'm adding this to keeping it sexy list. How can we make repairs? I like that.
Yeah.
So if I say something like that, you could ask me for more clarity. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Do you mean this?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Beautiful.
I want to add to our Keep It Sexy list, sharing fantasies, perhaps even ones that we've kept more private.
You know, Esther, we've talked so much about Esther Perras. She talks about a secret garden, that sometimes it goes both ways, keeping a secret garden or talking about the secret garden. So I would think it would depend on your blueprint. Do you like to share your fantasies?
Do I?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's another important thing for us to address, is that all these things that we're suggesting may not work for everybody. We're just trying to give a big toolkit so that people can play with keeping it sexy, you know?
Yeah, totally. I love the idea of skeletons. Like, I love uniqueness. So if you can take these ingredients and get inspired to create something completely different, even better, you know, just honoring you and your pleasure.
We have about 3 minutes until the end of the show. And I wanted to briefly address jealousy. And I wrote jealousy, and it's enduring hotness. Because jealousy has been keeping things sexy for a long, long fucking time. For instance, even the smallest way of, you're at a party, you see your lover across the room talking to somebody attractive. That person obviously finds your partner attractive. Their mate value is increased for you. This is an evolutionary psychology thing, right? When we see others desiring our partner, their value goes up in our eyes. That is hot as fuck. So I want to suggest that potentially on our Keep It Sexy list, we can play with jealousy. Doesn't mean you need to fuck other people, although if that's what you want to do and you want to talk about it and you want to be like, yeah, I did this and he nailed me and da-da-da, then great, do it, you know? But you can also play with it in really socially acceptable ways. Partner dancing, seeing your partner dance with somebody else. Like, woof, that can bring up all kinds of stuff. You take them home, fuck them good, you know? So, Samia, did you have something to say about that?
I felt like I needed to enthusiastically nod for the people.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I was so into that. I'm like, yes, I love fantasizing about my partners with other people. I love seeing them flirt with other people. I love seeing them be with other people. I'm into all of it. So thank you for that. Jealousy is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another side of jealousy.
What?
I was going to say there's another form of jealousy that works in the counter, when there's jealousy between, like, maybe your lover's making more money than you, or their careers are expanding, or they're having
Envy.
a good, that you can, your jealousy of your partner's growth can actually get in the way of keeping things hot. So on the opposite side, jealousy between you two can affect your pleasure and your play.
Yeah, that's like the other.
I would call that
sexual jealousy is sexy.
envy of your partner.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
unfortunate when that happens.
So I'll add that to the list. And then also Esther Perel talks about navigating the presence of the other. This is similar and related. You know, you can navigate knowing that we are human beings. We're not going to be attracted to only one person for the rest of our lives. There are going to be other sexual attractions. Knowing that that's true, we can either not talk about it, which is what people have done for ages, and then eruptions happen in their marriages and you know, blow everything up. Or we can somehow navigate the presence of the other. One way is we go to a party and we flirt with other people and then we go home together. Another way is sometimes we go to a sex party and we let people watch us. Another way is we occasionally kiss somebody. We have a hall pass to kiss somebody. Another way is we have some kind of open relationship. Another way is we share our fantasy about somebody else while we're fucking our partner. There's so many different ways that we can navigate the presence of the other. And I just want to share that is one way that we can keep it sexy.
I like Samia's like all embodiment on this last part of this conversation. She's just like, yes.
It's so much fun.
For our last moment of this live broadcasted show, I wanted to bring it back to, do I want to fuck me? So what am I doing so that I'm turned on by me? So that I want to fuck myself. We talked at the beginning about what turns us on, like when we feel sexy, and make sure that we're still doing those things so that we want to fuck ourselves. And the last thing I'll say about that is that Lee Noto in our episode shared that she had a fantasy of another version of herself going down on her, and it turned her on tremendously. And I have used that fantasy, and it is awesome. I highly recommend it, and it will let you know if you want to fuck yourself. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Leidy Dahiana, Erotic Blueprint coach. If you want some coaching, turn to her, contact her. I'll stick around for a few minutes to chat after we end the broadcast. Brian, thank you so much for joining. I would have loved to have heard a little bit more of your voice. Perhaps next time, Brian.
Right?
I love you all. This will be the same time next week, different topic. You can suggest topics. I'm very open to suggestion, very suggestible. And what else? Subscribe here and tell other people. And we'll do a little dance. If anyone wants to do a little dance with us to close out the show, please grab that spot. Do a little dance.
Give us our dancers.
Come on. Yeah, Elena. Come on. Somebody else wants to dance with us. Just a moment. Just a little dance. Just a little shimmy. Just a little shimmy. Yes, Lauren.
I love it.
Keep it sexy. Woo! Yay, I love you all. We're stopping the broadcast now. Mwah.